Tell me.
I had a lovely chat with Laurie and Josh. I love their story so much. Not just because of their personal story, but their story made me really nostalgic for the game that we're about to talk about.
Oh, wait a minute.
You can probably guess what it is.
I can guess what game it's going to be.
But their tale is a really adorable and also nuanced look at something really special that doesn't often happen. Let me tell you a little bit about Laurie.
Okay.
So she's from Pennsylvania, and when she was at school, she actually used to fight over the computer with her mother to play Ultima Online.
What, with her mum?
Yeah.
So when I was in high school, my mom actually started playing a game called Ultima Online, which was like the first MMO. And she was like, oh, you'd really like this. I think you should try it. I think you'd really like it. Because I was into fantasy novels and read all of the like Dristordan books and Neverwinter Night stuff. And then I played it and I got like insta hooked. And Mom and I actually used to have fights about like who got to use the computer for how long.
She was hooked on MMORPGs as a kid and at school. She just loved the socializing aspect of it. She happened to find a group of Europeans, and despite that sort of time difference between them and Pennsylvania, she created a really strong friend group for herself.
I was always looking to be more than just like a small town girl, and I'm sure that that was part of the allure of it, you know, these sort of foreign exotic individuals. But it ended up just being that these people were interested in the things that I was interested in a way that no one around me really was. Even my friends who were playing MMOs weren't as into it as I was, kind of thing. So these other people who were willing to meet at all times of day and night and, you know, constantly play with me and that kind of thing, there was that sort of connection that we had.
Just a small town girl logging into MMOs. It just writes itself.
So Ultima Online soon led to Laurie playing another game, Anarchy Online, which eventually led to World of Warcraft.
Why am I Jack's complete lack of surprise?
It's the first game that springs to mind when you say MMORPG.
Oh, absolutely.
It wasn't the first one by a long shot, but it is the big one. But when Laurie got into it to begin with, she didn't go there on her own.
I followed a boyfriend into WoW. He was like, let's play WoW. And I was like, okay, let's.
Really? That's so funny.
So, yeah, I have a serial history of following guys around MMOs.
Following guys into MMOs. Is that how you got into WoW?
Why did I get into WoW? I don't think I was playing with anyone else when I started playing it. I think I just really liked the box art.
Fair enough.
But also just because I was really into fantasy and I was really into role-playing and stuff like that. It was an easy sell for me.
How much daylight did you see growing up?
Not tons. I mean, like, back to Laurie and Josh. Laurie, she said she really liked the attitude that people have on MMOs. And while most people might be dating IRL, Laurie found that MMOs were weirdly where she could actually really connect with people.
There's the ability to be much more like free and open online because it is just text-based, and so you could write things that maybe you wouldn't say.
Yeah.
And that's how it sort of starts to escalate, where you become more and more open and
closer to those people as a result.
Then if the situation is ever like, oh gosh, I've said too much, you can always just log off. You know what I mean? Like there's always that reset button. Where in real life, you just can't walk up to someone and be like, I love you, out of the blue, like, because what are you gonna do? Just turn around and run away? Whereas, you know, you could just be like, oh, my internet crashed. So yeah, it was much easier to have those relationships.
You can't turn off a boyfriend in real life. They just keep talking.
They just keep going.
Oh my goodness, but at least you can log off. Oh, sorry, internet down.
But like, Laurie was saying all this, and I 100% got it. It is true. I never followed someone onto WoW.
Wait,
but one of my first relationships, they moved overseas and we continued long distance. And
oh my goodness, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, we ended up kind of going on dates via WoW.
Where did you go?
So we'd run around Orgrimmar and then, you know, like ride our wolves down the river and all this sort of thing. Back to the story of Laurie and Josh. So Laurie's playing a lot of WoW, and she ended up having a series of relationships that all happened to be with Norwegians, funnily enough.
Okay.
And she even went to visit some of them.
Actually, for my 17th birthday, my mom took me to Norway to meet the Norwegians because she was like, well, if we go together and we have my credit card, if things are weird and it doesn't really work out, you know, we can just get a flight back or
super
stay at a
supportive.
hotel. Yeah. So my mom's super cool about it.
Really cool.
Laurie's mum knows what's up. So Laurie ends up dating 3 different Norwegians. She's a bit embarrassed by how that sounds, but like...
You know, when we use dating apps, you suddenly realise you've got weird predilections for type that you weren't aware of.
Anyway, one of these guys that she dates is really good friends with someone called Josh.
Oh, okay.
Laurie joins Josh's World of Warcraft team, and they're called Stealth.
Because he likes to slide into DMs, stealth style.
We'd created something called Team Stealth, which were a bunch of friends who had classes that could be in stealth, basically. So I was playing as a rogue. I think there were some druids in there.
Ranger, your brother was a ranger.
Yeah, ranger.
They go on a bunch of different raids together as part of this guild. So it's Josh, Laurie, Josh's brother, a few of the Norwegians, and they have a lot of fun because raids are awesome.
At that stage, yeah, we'd been chatting on Ventrilo, aware of who each other were, and we had played a little bit just one-on-one. I remember I created a troll mage.
Yes.
And I was leveling that up whilst you were leveling your character. So we played just you and me.
Yeah.
Was that accidental or was that a little bit?
That was
Oh,
acting.
yeah.
That was just me being a clueless, like...
Yeah,
you know,
and I didn't have
idiot at the
any
time.
thoughts either because, again, I was dating someone else at the time.
who I was good friends with, like,
Yeah,
in-game.
Exactly.
You know,
So it was never a thought for either of us. So I had a fiery breakup with that person, and I was like, never going to play video games again. Hate everything
man.
about this. I'm done with it.
Never going to date
And-
anyone who plays video
Yeah,
games. Video
exactly.
games are bad.
Exactly. And then I was still like chatting with some of my really good friends in there. And I had MSN up, and I had one friend in MSN who, I don't know if you remember MSN, but used to be able to like change your name all the time. And he used to change it to song lyrics. And Josh had a name that looked like song lyrics. And so I messaged Josh thinking that he was someone else and asked
Probably a
him,
Norwegian.
actually Danish,
Oh,
and
okay.
asked him how the move was going. And weirdly and coincidentally, Josh was moving at the same
Yeah,
exact
I'd
time.
like just
So-
moved like 2 weeks prior and was like
so was talking to me
building
about the
IKEA
move.
furniture.
So for
and
the
stuff.
first 3 days, I thought that I was talking to a gentleman whose name was Jimmy Larson, not Josh.
That's hilarious. She actually thought she was chatting up somebody else.
Most epic of love stories.
Accidental MSN.
But isn't that the most like early 2000s story you've ever heard? You got World of Warcraft, you got MSN, changing like names to song lyrics.
It's got everything.
I asked them what it's like to sort of, I guess, bond with someone you'd end up later falling in love with through a video game as opposed to real life.
I think that it has the potential to be a much deeper and more meaningful relationship again because you do a lot of so Aoife was talking about sort of the meeting in real life and then a bit of posturing and perfecting and that kind of stuff. When you're online, you are more open, and then when you're doing something like a raid, you're cooperating in a way that you don't in real life relationship because you have like a same goal. So maybe if you were like on a sports team together or something like that and then started a relationship, that might
so true,
be
actually.
similar.
Shared
But
It's like a
experience.
performance
Exactly.
measurement.
Yeah.
But because you're working towards a shared goal, when you achieve that goal, it's the high of like accomplishing something with those other people makes those relationships better. I mean, think about the first time that you beat Anixia,
Yeah.
right? like that's everyone's reaction.
Hey,
Oh my god!
I remember-
And I remember like running around her, like just seeing her dead body, like around and around and around. Like we did it, we did it, we did it.
Slash
we did
dance, slash dance, slash dance.
Yeah. Those feelings are, again, not feelings that you have in your traditional in real life relationships. So because you have all of this built up, like really deep emotional history through openness and through those shared experiences, again, there's the potential that that relationship can be sort of accelerated and perhaps maybe more meaningful. And we found that. I mean, we were serious really, really fast
Yeah,
because we'd
totally.
had all
Yeah.
that experience.
No,
I
no,
definitely remember the first time I beat
I
Anixia.
knew you were waiting to do that. Onyxia was one of the. She was a
Go
raid,
on.
but she was a dragon. She was one
Yeah.
of the biggest raid bosses in the early days.
So it was quite a prestigious
It
thing
was.
to have accomplished.
Well, because whenever your raid killed Onyxia, and it was very difficult to do. You need about 40 people. You would go back, and her head would be displayed in your home city, and so
Cool.
which everyone shut.
But also as well, you're like she's saying, you're working towards a common goal, and I think you do learn a lot about someone with how they deal with
Yeah.
specific situations, as opposed to just like, hey, let's chat. It's like, what did you do that for? Oh my god,
Yeah.
that guy's such a coward. He ran off.
Yeah, for sure. But when they did get together and start dating, the reactions were not all positive.
There is still there's a generational gap and an understanding gap for people who do think, oh, you just got married in a video game kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like that is definitely the go-to image that that people pull out of it. While online dating is seen as more acceptable, video game dating is still weirdly in this kind of
Well, I think people
limbo
still think of
area
it as
where-
you've never met or had any sort of discussion that isn't like role playing.
Yeah.
You know, that you're essentially dating like a character as opposed to someone who's real.
People are just judgy.
Yeah.
Judgy.
If two people click, then it doesn't matter where they click, you know?
Yeah, I know, but people always